Welcome to the Modern Homesteading Podcast.
We have allowed ourselves to become so disconnected and ignorant about something that is as intimate as the food that we eat.
Be prepared to grow your own for victory.
God said, I need somebody strong enough to clear trees and heave bales, yet gentle enough to yean lambs and wean pigs and tend the pink-combed pullets who will stop his mower for an hour to splint the broken leg of a meadowlark. So God made a farmer.
Hello and welcome to the Modern Homesteading Podcast. I'm your host, Harold Thornborough, and I'm really glad you're joining me again today. And we got a special guest today on the podcast, and it's kind of a long discussion we're going to have, so we'll get right to it. But I just first wanted to say Happy New Year, and thanks for making 2016 such a great year for the Modern Homesteading Podcast. We had a large increase in downloads and listens this year, and we really appreciate that. And, just the community that's been built around this podcast has been great. And I look forward to 2017 with every one of you. And with that, let's just go ahead and jump right into our interview with special guest Tanya Morrison from Alberta, Canada. And I think you're going to love what she has to say to us today. I'm joined today on the podcast by Tanya Morrison from Alberta, Canada. And we're going to hear about her homesteading journey and her future homesteading plans today. And with that, Tanya, welcome to the Modern Homesteading Podcast.
Thank you.
Well, whenever I have a homesteader on the podcast, I always want to hear about what led them down this path, got them started down this road to self-sufficiency and homesteading. Would you mind telling us a little bit about your story and how you got here?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm actually a second-generation homesteader. My parents, I grew up in the Yukon, which is like northern Canada, and we lived off-grid. My parents moved us out into the bush before I remember. I think I was about one. We lived in a wall tent for about 14 years. My dad slowly built onto it. Hauled water from a creek, had a generator, had propane lights, propane fridge stove, had wood stoves for heat, heated our coop with a wood stove. So I kind of grew up like that, I guess, and then moved away from it a little bit. My family and I have moved away from it, but now we're actually my parents are moving down from the Yukon. We're all going to kind of meet in Alberta here and start a new homestead, multi-generational.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
What made the family want to get away from that at one point?
I think, I don't know. My dad saw a documentary on how our food system works.
Uh-huh.
And I believe, I luckily don't remember it because we enjoy raising meat and it's a part of my diet I enjoy. But, we were vegetarian for a little while. And then when we moved out into the bush there, we started raising our own meat birds and things.
Uh-huh.
So, and hunting was a big part of my childhood. Most of our red meat was moose or caribou, elk.
Yeah.
So that was kind of how we grew up on it. And I didn't realize that it was homesteading. I didn't. Yeah. It was how you were raised and how you grew up, like how I was brought up. So I just, like, you had chores and you worked and you produced your own food. And
but you say you kind of got away from that for a little while. What drove you away from it? You just the life in general, or?
Well, I've always been drawn back to the life. I've always missed it. But when I was about 14, the Yukon has a very mining-based economy, and the economy was taking a downturn. My dad's in construction and found work in Vancouver.
Okay. So
I had the ultimate culture shock at 14. I went from living off-grid in the bush, like an outhouse, and then moving to West Vancouver, I went to one of the richest high schools in Canada.
Oh, wow.
So, it was an extreme culture shock for me, and I actually lived on an island outside of Vancouver, so I'd catch a ferry to school every day.
Wow. Usually that works the other way. You drag some kid out in the country and it's the culture shock, but for you it was the opposite, right?
Yeah, my mom said when my little brother was in kindergarten, she'd get calls from the school because he'd plug the toilets and stuff and let the water run because he was just so amazed at running water. So,
wow.
Wasn't something we had. We didn't have taps, so.
Yeah, that is rare that you guys grew up in that situation. That's you don't see that a lot these days.
No, and honestly, I wouldn't change it. I miss it. We're not off grid where we are currently, and I think it's the best way to raise kids. We had chores. We didn't have TV. We would have to run the generator, so we got TV night once a week. We had our friends, they would tape X-Files for us. And so we fast forward for the commercials and watch it on our VCR, and that was like our family movie night. We get to watch like 2 episodes of X-Files kind of thing. And but we were just really creative. We always were outside and experimenting, and it's made me a really driven person. I think I have a good work ethic. I think you have to if you want to be a homesteader.
Right.
So I think that kind of upbringing for children just gives them so much more self-confidence. I never ran into a lot of the problems my friends did in high school. I didn't have the cultural pressures, I guess. I didn't conform to that kind of stuff. And both my brothers they're very similar as well too. So we're all really independent and self-assured children. So we all have different paths, but I think if you raise your kids like that, you definitely are able to, like, they're just going to be more productive in society, in my opinion. But
sure, yeah, I agree with you. So you made the trek from the Yukon to Alberta, and what's your situation like now? You got a homestead going on, and what kind of things are you doing there?
Yeah, we just got a small farm. So we have horses, chickens, ducks, pigs, big garden, but I'm working on my green thumb. I'm amazing with animals. I love animals, and I'm really good at figuring them out, but gardening is something I'm not. My mom's the green thumb, so I'm excited she's moving back in the spring because I'm going to get a better crash course in that. I definitely didn't appreciate all the work she did when we were kids, because you can garden in the Yukon.
Yeah.
And you can grow anything anywhere.
Definitely some challenges there that we don't have down in where I'm at, for sure.
Yeah. I'm kind of I'm really expanding out right now into canning and preservation, freeze-dried foods, things like that is kind of the direction that I'm exploring right now, because we've always kind of produced our own food, and we always did some canning and stuff growing up as a kid, but not to the extent where I don't want to go buy my canned tomatoes anymore. I don't want to go buy my sauces and things like that, and I'm trying to look at our diet and see what we eat and at least produce it for ourselves.
Yeah, sure. Well, you mentioned some animals there, ducks, chickens, pigs. Now I seen a while back, or not too long ago, a few days ago, you posted something about losing a bunch of chickens.
Yeah, we only moved to this farm. My spouse, he's a farm boy from Alberta, and we only moved to where we are last February. So we kind of jumped in the deep end, and that's usually how I do things. And I got a bunch of meat birds and a bunch of layers, turkeys, ducks.
Yeah.
And we had a coyote problem. It was about a day and a half, and they kind of took everybody out.
Wow.
So we lost meat birds. We're going to butcher them that weekend, so it was 3 days away from butchering. We lost all but 4, and I kept them because I just didn't have the heart after that.
Wow.
And we lost all of our layers except for 7. Our ducks, our turkeys, everything was gone, unfortunately. So, yeah, they just came up in a storm. Some of the Hutterites around here, some of the colonies were saying that coyotes can be more aggressive in that kind of weather. And it was really raining, and we free range, and we walk them up at night, but we free range. And I had been going down there, and I was kind of commenting that I felt some of the birds were missing. It just didn't look like they were there. And my spouse was saying that, well, it's storming. They're probably hiding up in the bush or something, right? And that makes sense. And I was at work the next day, and I got a call from him, and he called me and said, there's no birds left.
Wow.
Well, what do you mean there's no birds left, right? And, well, he's like, there's no birds left. There's no birds here. And then when we started kind of going through the tall grass and stuff, they killed a lot of them for sport, too, unfortunately. Like, I think we counted upwards of 300 that we had to bury because I didn't know if they were diseased or something, right?
Yeah, no kidding.
I've had other birds. If a bird passes away naturally, I know what happens. There's a few wildlife preserves and things we can donate them to, or raw food enthusiasts. We try to do raw food for our dog, but I have the one dog that's allergic to chickens, so
So
I have to find other things for her.
Okay, so you're going to go back to getting some more chickens, it sounds like. What's your plan to keep that from happening again?
Well, actually, we picked her up yesterday. We got a Pyrenees Irma
guardian dog. Okay, yeah.
Yeah. So we're doing that. We're also most of our property is fenced with high tension electric. So we got it in 10 strands. It's designed for sheep.
Yeah.
So we're expanding that. Where the coyotes came up was the one part of our backyard that doesn't have shelter board and the one gate in the back pasture. We could see where they came through. So we're just going to improve the fencing and then have a full-time dog that lives with our flock, because I think that'll be the best solution for the problems we face. Because we also had a few problems when my birds were a little younger than me. Birds were about 4 weeks old. We had ravens come in and attack them, which I had never experienced that one before. The hawks and the eagles don't seem to bother my birds, but the ravens were causing trouble.
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, like they ripped them right apart.
Oh, wow.
They took about 15 in half an hour when I went down there. So.
Well, what kind of acreage are you talking about there? I mean, how big of an area do they have to roam?
We got 4 acres.
4
and
acres.
And then we're looking at leasing an additional 4 right now, hayland. So I would like to get like a beef calf or something, but we just don't quite have enough pasture to sustain that right now with the horses. So I think if we expand to 4 acres, we would probably have enough pasture to do that. Cause we basically, our diet pretty much consists of like chicken, pork, and beef. So if that's the one I'm not able to raise right now.
Yeah. How many pigs are you able to raise there?
They have 3 different pastures. So we have 6 currently. I have 2 Berkshire Gilts and then 4 Tamworth Large Black Cross.
Okay.
And they're just about ready for butcher. I'm going to go tape them here in the next couple of days because they're probably going to go out. And then my Gilts, they're still pretty young. And I think we might breed them, but around here, I don't know if it's probably more reasonable for us to go and purchase.
Yeah, just start with some
feeder
pigs and go from
there.
there.
Exactly. So
it's a lot easier.
That's how we got these guys. Yeah, that's how we got these guys. And then it's a little less work too to winter. It's pretty bitter and cold here sometimes. So we just came out of a -30 snap, which is, I don't know what that is in Fahrenheit, but it's cold.
Yeah, that's right. Well, it sounds like you're doing pretty good with that. I mean, you're not looking to sell anything. This is just meat for your family and things like that, right?
Yeah, like a few. I sell a few. Like some of the pigs are already spoken for, so they'll be going, and I will be. So I'm interested in doing that, but I like the time at home with my family, and when it comes to homesteading, and the more interest I get in it, the busier I get at home, which I love. But I don't want to be too tied up in things like farmer markets and things like that on the weekends. I would like to have my time. So I'm looking more into like the direct market sales, word of mouth sales, and then looking at payment options for people. I grew up eating really healthy, and when we moved to the city, our health took a huge hit. And it was just because of a lack of education. We were eating really well just because of where we lived and how I was raised, and eating wild meat and growing our own food and having our own garden. And we never really thought about the large amount of impact it had on our health. And so moving to the city and finding Costco and drinking Diet Coke and eating, right? So I found all of our health took different tolls in different ways, moving to the city and not having that access to the food that we were growing ourselves or harvesting ourselves. So I really would like it if it was more affordable to other families, because even us, without raising it, I can't afford a lot of the quality. If you go to a store and if you're standing there and you're looking at chicken, one's organic and one's not. And then it's still the question too, I think, when it comes to high production farms like that, as it ethically raised, it might be organically fed, but so I want to offer like maybe payment programs or something like that. Something I'm kind of looking into do.
Almost like a CSA but with payment or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I haven't been able to find any CSAs in our area. I don't know if that's more of an American thing.
Yeah, I'm not
than around here. So,
sounds like you have the same problem with the food costs, though, that we have here. If it's healthy, it's twice or 3 times more than the unhealthy counterpart.
Absolutely.
That's crazy.
Yeah, exactly. So I think I'd like to kind of look into that and maybe more direct marketing it and doing that kind of thing, because I enjoy helping people and working with people. I enjoy educating people. Because I grew up with chickens and things like that. Even this summer, it's opened up some opportunities for maybe hosting some courses or things like that. Because people, like, to me, butchering a chicken is common sense.
Yeah.
I grew up doing it. I didn't realize it wasn't something people didn't understand how to do. And here, you ship your birds out. It's $3 to $6 a bird to get them butchered, and then they dip them in bleach water at the end.
Yeah.
So, right, because it's a high production or a high kill facilities. So
yeah, around here, I don't know what the situation is up there. I guess you have facilities for that, but it's even hard in my area. It's hard to find facilities that will do that for you. And if you're going to sell the meat, you pretty much have to take it to a facility to have it done. But it's not real convenient on the location of those places. A lot of times, you might travel a long way.
Oh no, some people. Well, and I think the problem with that too in our area is some people have to travel quite a ways. We have Hutterite colonies around us, a lot of Alberta, which so they have a traditional religious background, but they're very commercialized. So a lot of the food production, crop production, a lot of the land owned around us, in Alberta generally. A lot of it is owned by Hutterites, and they're really, really smart. They got it figured out because they do from production to sales. They have it all. So you can usually go to them, and they have the certified facilities. So you can have your meat certified to sell. There is no portable abattoir that offers that here in Alberta. I know they were looking into it in one of the colleges nearby us here, but I don't know if it really got off the ground. I think that would be an amazing opportunity for small production farms. Yeah, no kidding. But it's not available here yet. I know it's actually something that's available in the Yukon, where I'm from. Originally, that's the only thing they have up there is a portable abattoir, because up until then there was no way you couldn't sell meat because there was no processing facility up there. So right now the only option up there is a portable abattoir. Okay, wow. Yeah, that sounds similar to around here. I mean, I think some states they have that kind of set up, and in other places it's just, you have to travel a long ways, or the option is, I think in some states down here even, there's like, you can do so many birds yourself, but if you go over a certain number, then, it's a problem. You can, there's just all kinds of regulations and rules everywhere you go that are different and hard to keep track of them all. Well, and even between us and Saskatchewan and Manitoba, there's different regulations. I'm not sure. I think there is a province where you can sell a certain number direct off your farm as long as it's marked uninspected, but in Alberta, where it has to be inspected if it's going to be sold. Like, we can't even sell it for like dog food. Yeah. I can't even sell it as uninspected meat. I can't do any of that. So if you are to sell, like, your only option is sell it alive or sell it inspected right now. Yeah. Well, you obviously, I don't know, you had a pretty good number there. You said you lost around 300 birds. So, I mean, you were looking at a lot of birds and a lot of production there. So, obviously, you had the intent to have those processed somewhere and sell them, right? Well, actually, most of the meat birds, they were going to be, I was raising some for friends. So they were going to come butcher their own. Oh, okay. With us and for my family as well. So, we only had 150 meat birds. So I wasn't too high on the meat birds. But then I had breeding stock. We're looking at doing rent-a-hen, because we're essentially located between Edmonton and Calgary, which are some of the largest cities here in Alberta. And Red Deer is our closest town. Again, it's quite large. And they're starting a lot of the urban chicken programs where you can have 4 or 5 hens. So, but there's really no option here for people that don't have an education on birds. And our version of, I think it's Tractor Supply you guys have down there, is PV Mart is what we have here. And you go there and you're going to spend $600 to $900 on a coop that really isn't insulated. It's not designed for our weather up here. They're not user-friendly most of the time. They're quite frustrating to use. And then, so you got that investment, and then you go and you kind of shop around online and you start looking for birds or something like that. And people are probably $20 to $30 in for a heritage hen around here, and especially one that's laying and stuff. So it's a huge investment for someone who's not sure if it's something they want to do, or someone who has experience with it, or someone who is inexperienced with it. So I'm looking at starting a program where we can lease out a portable coop, and then with the birds, and have that for 6 months. So I'm not going to provide coops in the winter, because it is definitely harder up here to care for birds in the winter, and especially if you're inexperienced. And so do a rent-a-hen program with heritage hens, and offer people the opportunity to learn and kind of grow, and then have an adoption program at the end if they decide it's something they actually want to jump into and something they want to continue doing. There's also a good market around us with what people call acreage owners, which I guess would kind of be us. We're an acreage, because we only have 4 acres, but there's a lot of the sections here, the larger farms, cut out a little piece and sell it, and people from town buy it because they want to have their horses, or they still want the convenience of being reasonably close to town. Most people, I don't think, would be willing to drive more than half an hour. But then they have an interest for that kind of thing too. So there's a few different markets like that are available. So I had a lot of breeding stock, different heritage breeds.
Those are some interesting business models. Rent a hen, huh? Rent the coop and the hens, and and you're right. I think that would be a really great way to introduce people to chickens and get them going. It takes away a lot of the fear of buying a bunch of birds and then having to deal with all the headaches that come along with that right off the bat. But if you could just kind of temporarily get some birds or whatever and try it out for a while before you make a big investment or just a big plunge into that kind of a business, or whatever, just providing your own food. It'd be a good way to get some healthy food to people, or really, really well.
Well, exactly. And then having someone to educate. I've spent a lot of time on my phone, I'm on a bunch of different chicken sites on Facebook, and I have, especially in Alberta, I have no problem picking up the phone and calling someone because they're like, my turkeys are dying. I don't know what's happening. They figure out, well, there's a breeze, right? Like turkeys. Mm-hmm. I had frustrations with turkeys this year. I understand that, but I'm experienced with it. So when you're inexperienced, it can even be more aggravating and upsetting. And it's like raising your own meat and having that experience with that animal and providing that animal quality of life and having it provide nutrition to your family is such a great experience. And I don't want people to be turned off by it, right? I want people to have hopefully a good introduction to it and have some support with it, because it can be devastating otherwise. Like the losses we had this year it was really hard to face. And like I said, we had only moved to the farm in February, so we had invested in our birds for $150 here, and we had they were called a Western Rustic. They were a slightly slower growing broiler, but they were $600 just for 150 birds after shipping.
Significant loss, so plus all the feeding and raising them to that age. Yeah,
so all your feed and then even just equipment. I didn't have a single heat lamp. I didn't have anything. So we had quite an investment into them. And the weekend before, we looked at them and said, we'll give them another week. We want them a little bigger, which I regret saying now. And then we were about 3 days out from butchering that weekend when that happened. And so if someone who's not as stubborn as maybe we are might be turned off from that kind of experience. So we're also going to be offering a broiler leasing program. So a heritage cross meat bird that grows in about 9 weeks. And so they'll get 25 meat birds, a chicken tractor, a brooder setup, feed, because I found in our area grain's readily available. We're in a huge farming, Alberta is huge farming community. So I have access to all different kinds of grain and all different kinds of products. And so I've started mixing my own feed, and I think it's costing me about 20 cents a month per bird, per hen right now. And that's non-GMO, non-sprayed, all natural. So I've gotten to a point where I'm doing that. So there's lots of other people that want an education in that as well. So we're thinking in the spring of offering like a broiler leasing program where you get, say, 25 birds, you get your chicken tractor, your feeders, your waters, everything. And then you raise your birds because you don't have to put out that expense of building all that stuff or building your fences or buying the feeders, and you can hopefully work from someone else's experience who's bought that feeder that doesn't work or that water that doesn't work. And then basically we'll get the equipment back. They get to butcher their own birds, and we have some friends that are doing, we're probably going to have a mobile butcher trailer. So it wouldn't be inspected. You couldn't sell the animals, but the same thing. It's a huge investment. You want to go butcher your own animals. It's $600 for a quality plucker, right? There's a lot of elbow grease. There's a lot of other ways around it. There's a lot of ways to do it if you want to do it on your own. But for someone who wants it to be a little easier, and maybe someone who maybe wants to see if it's something they want to do but doesn't want to invest in all that equipment and stuff right away. So we're going to offer leasing and rental programs too, so then they can still experience it but not have to have that initial investment of $1,000 to go get your equipment up and running and your fencing and your feed and everything else, right?
Sure, yeah. Now, I assume you've done some homework. There seemed to be a pretty good interest for this around your area. I mean, quite a few people talking about it.
Yeah, there is. And actually, we had a plucker. We had a stand-up plucker we were trying to use. We had 3 different times we butchered this year, and our plucker wasn't working, so I actually ended up renting one, and it's a great idea. It was awesome. I was happy that it cost me $50. Right, and I was able to process our birds. We only did 30 birds, but honestly, it was worth it for me because we were standing outside in the snow by car light by the time we had got to it. So I was very happy to have that. And there's a huge interest in that. A big problem, I think, though, is I've always lived out of town, and I caught a ferry to school. We had a ranch in northern BC. It was 2 hours to any town. I grew up in the Yukon. My bus ride was an hour and a half each way. So I've always been used to traveling, but I find people that live closer to cities, after 15, 20 minutes, they seem to feel it's a long drive. So I think if you're looking at programs like that, it's either you need to offer the transportation, you need to offer the delivery service, or you need to have it more spread out so it's more available to different areas.
Yeah.
So our friends that have the plucker that we rented, they're about an hour and a half away from us, so it actually worked really well because they could serve a different area than us and offer that option to people that just. And if you're only butchering once a year, is it really worth the investment in some of the equipment? Wow.
Well, you know what, Tanya, I hear a lot of people talking about how they would love to see people, do more and eat better, and boy, it's great to hear somebody that's actually taking some initiative and taking some steps towards actually helping that happen. I mean, it sounds like you're really working towards making some things happen. This is going to be a reality for some people. I mean, they're going to eat better, they're going to learn how to raise their own food and grow their own food and things like that because you're taking an initiative. That's great. I love hearing that.
Well, it's a lot of fun, and I just like seeing people get excited about it and have fun with it. It's such a fulfilling lifestyle. You should go to bed tired at the end of the day because you've achieved something.
Yeah.
So it's something that I've always been passionate about. My parents moved back in the spring, so that's when we'll probably start looking for land. We're looking at a larger piece because I have a passion for cattle, and my spouse has a background in cattle, so that's definitely a direction we want to go in the long run. And Alberta is a huge beef industry area, so grass-fed is in high demand. Those kind of qualities are in high demand. Ethically raised is in high demand. And I think the general public is getting more educated on it as well, too, and starting to understand where that quality comes from. So if people are looking at homesteading, I think there's a huge opportunity there to offer to offer your experiences, your interests, and to combine your lifestyle, but not be a hermit and just run away from the world too.
Right. Sometimes. Yeah. The challenge really is raising animals or even growing vegetables is keeping that cost, affordable when you're growing in an organic or raising in a natural way, pasture raised or whatever.
Absolutely.
Because, because as you know, you sounds like you worked on the feed enough to know how to get them prices down. But if you go buy organic feed, it's expensive,
it's double the cost for organic.
So and that really is the reason why a lot of these animals that are raised in that way are so expensive to buy the meat and even the vegetables.
Absolutely.
I mean, when you're can't keep the pests off and you've got a shortage of what you can sell. It's going to cause some rise in the prices, and that is the challenge, I think, trying to make it affordable for people to eat right, but yet give them something healthy as well.
Yeah, exactly. But I think if you can create an interest in it, and I don't know, I'm a huge fan of the smaller farmers. I think a lot of the issues in our food today has come from the high production. You put 20,000 birds in a coop, it's not good for them.
No.
And even if you have really good animal husbandry skills and you're in there and you're experienced with them, you can't prevent certain diseases. You can't prevent certain outbreaks. You can't prevent issues when they're so close like that.
They figured out a way. They just pump them full of medicine, and then we get that as well. So.
Yeah, exactly. Let's just keep them full of antibiotics full time.
Yeah.
But I think if there's a huge demand, like our pigs, we picked up our pigs, and just me. Well, I'm passionate about my lifestyle, and I'm pretty sure anyone around me knows about it because I like to talk about it. But through that in day-to-day life, my pigs were sold. I never tried to sell them.
Yeah.
But the people that are interested in them are interested in that quality. They want the heritage meat. They want the ethically raised. They want that roots. They've been to my farm. They've seen our animals. They've bought hens off me and things like that, right? So they know, they have those experiences. And so I think if you're wanting to live this lifestyle and if you're happy to share it with people, there definitely be opportunities there for that. And it was the whole idea for the broiler leasing option was because when I looked at our experience last summer and how much it cost us, and not one of those chickens ended up feeding our family. And I looked at like our expenses, and at that point I was only just starting to get into our own feed and mixing our own grains and finding wholesale options for us. It was a huge expense that was wasted. It was a good learning experience, and there's a bunch of benefits to it, I guess, I think in the long run, including looking at that and saying, well, maybe someone else would rather pay some, but maybe not own the equipment, and they can always buy the equipment too if they decide it's something they want to do, or they can build their own if they decide it's something they want to do. But that first initial step into something like that, it's hard, it's difficult, it's a huge commitment. And so financially, if you can cushion that for some people, I think there'd be a good opportunity there.
Yeah, you just kind of have to count those initial losses your first year as a educational expense for sure, because that's what it is. You definitely learn. Well, unfortunately, it comes at the price of some lives for the livestock, and we've all experienced that. Anybody that's a homesteader knows that sometimes our inexperience will result in something we don't want to think about, but it does happen. There's a learning curve in it for sure, and just learn some things.
Well, and I grew up raising chickens and everything like that, and everyone told me, no, you can't free range. There's too many predator issues, and I had great luck for half the summer. I had zero predator issues. So, but then you live and learn and move on. And I'm still really passionate about pasturing and having my animals free range. So I'm not locking up my birds still.
You took
I'm
the
not
right
going
steps.
to do that.
You should be fine. Yeah, you got the dog now, and you did what you know what you want to do, and you took the steps to make that happen. And
you can find the solutions for it. Yeah,
that's right.
And we have two other dogs too. And the premise when we got our shepherd was that he'd be an outdoor dog, but he's a city dog. He came from a home they couldn't walk him. They had some issues with him just because he's a very large, high energy dog, and he's amazing on the farm. He's amazing with the birds. And he's great, but he's scared of the dark, and he's been a house dog, and I don't know if I don't have the heart to make him an outdoor dog. So
that's all right. Some animals is just that's fine. There's pets too. I agree. That's fine.
Yeah, exactly. So we picked our guardian dog up yesterday, and
oh wow.
I haven't brought her in the house yet, so
just a puppy though right now.
Yeah, she's 12 weeks.
Okay.
So I actually have her set up in the coop. She has her own area because she has zero interest in the birds, which I like. She has zero prey drive when it comes to them with watching her. She seems really great with them, but obviously she needs more training and time and supervision. So she's in the coop. She's living with the birds. She's got her own penned off corner of the coop and her own kennel and her own little house in there. And so she's doing good. And kind of though you walk away and she starts crying, you feel like the biggest person in the world, but it's her job. It's her purpose in our life.
You sounds like you're doing it just like you need to do it there. So, So what you're doing here, you got 4 acres, you got your little ranch going on, but that isn't your ultimate plan. Your ultimate plan is to get more acreage, go off grid again. Did I understand you saying that right? You want to be off grid?
Oh yeah, 100% off grid. We're going to be doing that with my parents.
Okay.
So between I'm the animal person. I have a lot of experience with animals, vet care, things like that. My mom is the gardener. She can grow anything out of anywhere. My spouse, he's a truck driver with a welding background, and my dad's construction. So between all 4 of us, there's basically nothing that we can't deal with or handle when it comes to that kind of lifestyle. Myself, my mom and dad, obviously, we have a lot of experience with that. My spouse, he grew up on a farm here. It was off. He had power when he was a little younger, but he's not scared of an outhouse or something like that. So we will buy a larger piece, probably a little further from where we are right now. The area we're in it's highly farmed. There's a lot of spraying and commercial farming around us, which is something we don't want to be too close to. So we're looking looking at a few different parts of Alberta. There's a lot of option though, so we're looking at some areas where it starts kind of getting a little more mountainous. There's less interest for the large commercial farmers to use that land. So probably a quarter section at least. I think it's 160 acres. Is probably the minimal we're looking at, up towards of a full section, which is 4 quarters. So we would, depends on the land and the price and things like that. And then building, I've been fooling around with plans, so we kind of have an idea of a passive solar house style that would suit our family and our needs. And then in Alberta, everyone has hay, straw, byproducts like that. So we're going to have an external boiler system that actually uses radiant heat in the house or in our shop. I would like to grow fodder, so a fodder room. Mm-hmm. And that actually will burn old straw or hay bales, which I don't know, I got 15 in my field right now that are so old and moldy I can't use them, but no one will take them.
Oh, wow.
So if I could burn them, and they burn forever, they smolder forever, so it's kind of a free energy source option for us.
I don't think I've ever heard of that setup before, just burning old hay and straw, huh?
Yeah, like it's a giant outdoor broiler, and then you basically, I think it uses hot water system into your house, and you can either set it up through radiant floor heating. We're going to do radiators on the walls. Radiant floor heating kind of makes me uncomfortable because, especially in the basement stuff, when it's cemented in, I want to be able to repair things ourselves.
Yeah.
So radiant heaters throughout the house, and then a wood stove and a wood cook stove in the kitchen, and then probably propane. It's really common here to have natural gas piped into your property. Mm-hmm. But even then, I look at my monthly bill, it's $80 a month just to have the service. Wow. So it's not something I'm interested in continuing in the future.
So you obviously have to have electric, though, for running pumps and things for the water system, I'm assuming. So you'd be looking at solar for that?
Yeah, for sure. And then probably wind, because it would depend on our area. But solar is definitely the way to go. And we get some really good light. Alberta's in the Yukon it wouldn't work. We get almost 24 hours in the dark in the winter, but down here we get a little more sun. It's dark here now, and we have some solar set up around our farm right now too, including for yard lights and fencing and things like that. So I think it's a good feasible option as long as you build your life for it, as long as you know what to expect. But we don't even have a microwave or anything like that currently. And if you built your house properly, I think your power consumption is pretty easy to manage that way.
Yeah, sounds like you got that pretty good plan there for going off grid. Of course, it's not like you're inexperienced with that. You know what you're doing. I mean, you grew up that way.
No, we've had solar in the past. We had a generator. We had propane lights. We had. It's amazing how little you need if you can get your refrigeration figured out. But even now, since even when I was a kid, like I'm 30 now, but since I was a kid, the technology's come so far.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like you couldn't dream of running a fridge or any sort of refrigeration on solar, where now it's an available technology, right?
Right. Yeah.
So there's a few different options there. I kind of like the idea of propane because I can just have one large tank in our yard, have it filled monthly, and then that would probably be my refrigeration, my main source of cooking. I will have a wood cook stove, but we're a family. We're busy. I also want to be realistic with how much time I'll have to put towards that. I would love to just have a wood cook stove, but I haven't fully committed myself to that. And then, so there's a bunch of options available. I think though, if you look around, like I'm amazed, like composting toilets, things like that. They're the technology in them nowadays. It's amazing.
Oh,
and the gray water systems. So.
I've seen some pretty neat setups for the composting toilets and things. It's amazing how far that stuff has come. Really is.
Oh, I know. Like there was one I was looking at the other day. It takes a teacup of water and you empty it every 3 years.
Wow, yeah, I haven't seen that one. That's pretty wild.
It'll travel 12 feet vertically as well.
Oh,
it's just amazing. Yeah, there's some really, really interesting technologies out there. So I'm kind of excited about that. And Alberta has, they're often on the forefront of this kind of stuff too. I think there's a lot of options available. There's a Hutterite colony that actually has one of the broilers that I was discussing, because you can buy them. A lot of people, you can get them where they're pellet fed, or you can do big lengths of wood. Some people you're not bucking up your wood as much, and your mess is all outdoors. And I know several people that have that style here. I know some people in Alberta that have them, that use them to heat their house and their shop. But if you could burn like a 1,600-pound round bale of straw or hay, old moldy stuff you can't use, and I'm sure almost farmers, I would almost pay someone to take these ones off my property, because my only option right now is to burn them, but they'll smolder for weeks. It's going to be and it's not the nicest smell when they're burning too. It's not that nice wood smoke smell.
Do you guys, does anybody up there ever consider like the rocket mass heaters or anything like that?
You know what? Yeah, they have. My parents, that's like, this is where my parents differ. My dad's going to be doing a wood stove in his house, he really likes that rocket mass heater. The problem with that though is insurance. Yeah. A lot of insurance companies don't recognize them. So I think it would be, if you want to take the risk, and I think they're great. I think they're an awesome idea. So my parents they're doing a wood stove in their home, and that's how they're still going to do radiant heating through with and have their wood stove in their basement, and have a few different options. Like that's how they're going to heat their home. But because of our lifestyle, and I do want to have a fodder room, and I want we'll have a shop area that's heated and things like that too. Mm-hmm. So I want to have the option that I don't want to have to run around stoking 5 different stoves kind of thing.
Yeah, I understand that.
Yeah. So for us, that was more suitable. There's some debate between me and my dad on it. He said that one of the big concerns with that is that if you have a pump that goes or something like that, you're out of luck for heating. Mm-hmm. Because you're using just the one source. And I will have a wood stove in my house as an instant heat, and as backup heat. And then I'll have I'll have that also hooked into the propane system. So if we are away or something like that, my house won't freeze up, at least, minimally keep it heated to a minimal temperature. But so I don't know. Well, I guess time will tell that one, because that's the debate between him and I right now. Is he's feeling that it's not that it's not an efficient system, but maybe it's not as reliable as chopping that wood and you stoking your fire and knowing it's done, kind of thing. So
yeah, and that's something you'll just have to trial and error and work it out as time goes. I'm sure you guys will get the bugs worked out of that and figure out exactly how you're going to do that. But you were mentioning earlier about kind of like how technology has come so far. And it just kind of reminded me of something about how so many people look at homesteading like this escape from modern technology and running away from, the way things are in every area. But it's really not the case with modern homesteading. I mean, we're trying to take advantage of modern technologies like, compost toilets and heating situations. Things. I mean, really, rocket mass heaters are a relatively new thing. They're still trying to figure those out, and it's kind of like cutting edge stuff, really, but they work really well. And all these things are modern, but yet it takes us back to an old way of living in a lot of ways, which I think is pretty fascinating.
Yeah, well, it's so available though. It's like the internet. Like I grew up reading Back to Basics. That that yellow book. Mm-hmm. That was my favorite book on my dad's bookshelf. I'd pull it out and I probably know every page of that book, everything that's in that book, because I've read it thousands of times. It was my favorite book growing up as a kid. And now for example, my chickens, trying to come up with a concept for a feeder in my chicken tractor that moves in my chicken tractor, so I don't have to pull out my feed and water, move my chickens, and then put it back, right? Mm-hmm. Pinterest, Google, there's so many options out there, YouTube, looking at all these different options, it's so readily available. I see on a lot of homesteading sites, people seem to be intimidated by it, but I guess I'm excited by it. There's so much support and availability and option and access nowadays.
Yep, I'm right there with you. I agree.
You're not depending on one book. You're not depending on your neighbor's opinion. You're right. There's so much option to do as much research as you want or as little. It's all right there. And if you run into a problem, I had a pig we got. One of our piglets had mites. Mm-hmm. And I took a picture. I threw it on my pastured pork site because we got her here, and she was really wild. I couldn't get near her, and I finally had her up at the fence, and I said, her skin, her ears were looking a little scaly, and I didn't know what it was, right? It took a picture and 5 minutes, and I had 30 answers.
and the solution as well, yeah.
And absolutely, and a solution from everything from we're a homeopathic farm, so I don't use the antibiotics. I don't use a lot of the commercial drugs or commercial treatments that people use.
Olive oil in the ears helps a lot.
Yeah, and I love using castor oil, pine tar. There's a lot of different things that I've picked up, growing up on a farm. My when I grew up on a farm. When an animal got sick, you figured it out. You helped the animal. You didn't always have the option to run to a vet. There's very little vet care available in the Yukon. It's improved since I've left, but when I was up there and had horses, there was no large vet there to see your horses. The only thing they could do was draw blood work and then give you some guesses. Was the best. Like there was no X-rays, there was no facilities for them. There was nothing available for it. So, and that was 10 years ago, less than that, 5 years ago. So if you kind of, I guess I grew up having to be independent with caring for your animals. So if you have those homeopathic things on hand, it's not they can treat such a wide variety of animals and such a wide variety of issues.
Yeah.
And it's really a handful of things that I have on hand. Like I use diatomaceous earth. We use pine tar, castor oil. I'd have to go take a look at what I have run around. I'm a huge proponent of colloidal silver. I really enjoy using that product internally and externally on anything, including myself and my family, with everything we have. So if you can find those kind of solutions, farmers have different approaches, and even on the pastured pork site that I'm on, and pigs. This is my first year doing pigs. I'm pretty new to them. So we had pigs when I was younger, but I don't think I had anything to do with them really. I was younger. So they're new to me this year, and I had answers from, well, give them a shot, or here's an approach that's homeopathic, right? And there's so much support out there, and I had the answer in zero time.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's just amazing the resources we have right at our fingertips nowadays, and you do have to be careful. There is a lot of bad information floating around out there, but you know what I find is, I mean, if you don't just go to the first resource you find and go with that, you keep looking, and if you have 20, 30 places that's saying the same thing, and maybe one or two that's off the wall a little bit, you go with the majority of those, and you can trust it usually. I mean, you just have to do a little bit of research and homework and play out right. But it's just amazing, and it's relatively free. I mean, for the most part, you have a little bit of internet cost or whatever, but I mean, it's amazing the information at your fingertips nowadays.
Well, and that's all we have here too. Is actually just internet. We're the spot we're in. The only option we have is satellite internet, and that's what we have. Before we moved out here, we actually realized we hadn't watched TV for months, so we just turned it off. Like we realized it had been like 2 or 3 months before we had turned it on. Yeah, and that great. We were on a property on the very edge of town, so we had some privacy with a yard and gardening and camping, and we had our horses boarded and stuff. But even just those little things, it keeps you busy, right? Yeah. And then now being here, we're even busier, which is great. It's all stuff we enjoy doing. I guess there's some moments like dealing with some of the water right now, where we had like minus 30 there, and it's cold and no one's happy, and and you're out there hauling water and things like that, and your pig knocks you over and soaks you, and you're just not in the mood for it. But you don't need a lot of that stuff. Like we don't have a microwave. My spouse's sister came to live with us. She's 15. She's lived with us now for a year, so since we've been on the farm, and she doesn't. We didn't have a microwave, and she didn't know how to cook, so she'd microwave a hot dog. Like that was how she would approach cooking. And now actually I kind of had a really proud moment, because like she's in grade 10, so she's looking at college. She wants to be a vet, and she wants to be a large vet and take more of a homeopathic approach. And but she was saying I don't think I'm ever going to get a microwave again. Like she's not missing it.
Like
and once you step away from some of those, but once you step away from some of those influences, sometimes, or those things that you think are so convenient, there's a lot of solutions, and there's a lot of answers, and there's a lot of ways, and sometimes it's easier. I don't think homesteading's harder. I think it's easier.
In a lot of ways, I mean, it's definitely harder work, but it's a simpler life for sure.
It's not difficult though.
Yeah. It's not difficult. You're right. It's not that it's complicated or anything. It's just that like you said earlier, you should go to bed tired, every night. I mean, it's a good feeling. It's natural to be in that place.
Well, and that's what originally brought me to Alberta. Was I've always had an interest in cattle, but feed prices, especially up in the Yukon, are astronomical. Like they're out of this world. And our growing season is so short. You can get a single cut of hay, but you don't really there's not a lot available up there, and on top of that, there's no infrastructure for it too. There's actually really no equipment available. There's nothing available up there because it doesn't exist up there. And so I came to Alberta and got a job on a ranch because I had decided I want to learn about cows, and that's kind of how I do things. Like I learned when I was younger, I wanted to learn to butcher, so I went and got a job at a butcher shop and did that for a year. And so I kind of started shopping around and was really honest and said, I don't know anything about, like, I'm a farm girl, I work hard, but I have zero clue about a cow, right? I know animals, I don't see, they're not usually too different. One, like, I can deal with horses. Is a cow really that different, kind of, was my opinion. And someone took a bunch of phone calls, and someone gave me a job, and I drove to Saskatchewan, so I drove through Alberta, and worked on a ranch that had over 3,000 cows, and I got thrown in the deep end. I learned to run a tractor. I learned how to work cattle. I was out with calving and doing all these experiences, and I absolutely loved it. And there's nothing. I was doing 18-hour days. I think I did 40 days in a row or something like that. And you hit your bed, you're tired, and it's such a fulfilling experience. And I guess it was something I'd missed from back when I was on the farm, when you go out and you would do firewood, or you were butchering all day, or you're out cleaning the coops, and there was always something to do. And you'd sit down and you'd actually eat because you're hungry, not just because you think you should eat. And you go to bed and you fall asleep because you're tired. And I missed it. It wasn't something that, like, once you grow up and you get a job and you get busy and you're not paying as much attention, but you're busy being busy. You're not busy doing anything.
Yeah.
So,
Tanya, don't you know how odd you are that you would go and actually work on a place to try to learn how to do something? You're supposed to just crack a book or get on the internet. Don't you know how weird that is? I think that's awesome that you want to be you want to learn how to butcher, so you get a job butchering. You want to learn cows, so you go work with some cows. I think it's awesome. Nobody does that anymore.
Yeah. Well, and I think, like, that's what I think. That's why I go raise your kids like this. I grew up, my parents were like, hey, like, get out of my hair. Here's a hammer, here's a nail, go build a fort. And we had a fort. We drew a line across the fort, because if you crossed it, that side would collapse. And we were like, don't go to that side, it's not sturdy. But like, we had some big knuckles and some bloody noses and some bruises, but I was never afraid to try anything, right? Yeah, but if I want an answer, I want a solution, I'm going to go figure it out for myself. I don't depend on someone else for it. And growing up like that was my parents' attitude. Well, figure it out. And, like, you could be gushing blood, and my dad would be like, you know what? You need to calm down. You gotta stop crying. I can't understand you. You can totally see what the problem was, but, like, you put me in the middle of an emergency, I don't freak out, right? You don't get worked up over it. And we lived an hour and a half out of town. What are you gonna do? You got to figure it out yourself. My dad's got the stitches and the staple gun. He can fix you. It's like, you're fine, right? And so, like, that's kind of how I grew up, was with that kind of approach. And there always is a solution and just ask the question. That's all you got to do, is just ask the question. You don't know, just ask.
Yeah, sounds like that.
It's honestly that simple.
Yeah, that kind of upbringing and that kind of spirit's it's gonna do you well on homesteading life for sure, and sounds like it already has. So, yeah.
Well, and that's why we're moving back to that lifestyle. I really miss it, and I'm super entrepreneurial too, so I don't think I'll ever move away from businesses and working with people and doing that kind of thing. I like, I don't know, that kind of stress, I guess, I like that pressure, I like that energy, I like that excitement, and I want to be, when you live I think a lot of homesteaders go a way of a zero debt, and I think that's a huge proponent. I think that's so important, is trying to live a debt-free life.
Yeah.
If you chase a car payment your whole life, that's what you're chasing. You're worried about what the person at the stoplight thinks about you.
Oh yeah.
So, right, like, it's not needed, and it's a car. I like living frugal. I get excited that I paid $800 for my van. It was like, the guy wanted $3,000 for it, but I got it for $800, and I've been driving it for a year and a half. I'm like, we went and put an alternator in it the other day because I needed that, but that was about it. And it's great. And I think people, I guess I became so passionate with coming to Alberta and moving away, because especially living in Vancouver. Vancouver is such a large city, and the high school I went to, and like several of my classmates got BMWs for their 16th birthday, and it was such a different lifestyle and different value system And I never found any of it fulfilling in any way.
Right.
It wasn't, right. And people didn't have your back. Like, it wasn't the same support you get from a farming community or a neighbor or your family that you have. And so I think that's one reason I'm running back so hard and like so focused on that homesteading lifestyle is time moves so much slower and life's short. And I love that part of it is you just enjoy your day. And I love the variety. I'm absolutely, I could never do a repetitive job. I can't do a desk job. I can't do something like that because it's so consistently the same thing. So there's always something new to explore, something new to try, and you know what? There's always a problem to fix. So
that's right. Yeah.
I love that, and I think that if you can take a little ownership and some pride in your life, it's so important for a human soul. That's what life's worth living then, right? It's not about the shiny car. It's not about the big vacation. It's not about all the newest accessory or that smart TV in your living room.
I agree with you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you're heading down the right path, and I love your sense of caring for the community and wanting to help others do it. I love it that the things you're anticipating in the future and stuff. You told me earlier you don't have a website or a Facebook page for what you're doing yet, but I hope you build one pretty soon because I would love to see more about what you're going to be doing for sure.
Well, it's due here hopefully the end of January because I'm going to be advertising for our leasing programs, our rental trailers, and then a meat bird that I'm actually bringing in from Halifax, like a heritage cross meat bird, because it's not available in the hatcheries here. So there will be some. I love technology and the internet for that. I've had other businesses. I own a natural cleaning service and stuff like that, and having a website, that kind of connectivity, that advertising is awesome. So I'm building it. It's not there, but it will be up and running. And someone suggested a blog, but I have to look into that because I honestly don't even know how it works. So,
well, we'll be in eager anticipation for this. I can't wait to see all the things you're going to be doing for sure because it sounds like you got a lot going on. And once you guys get your new land purchase and stuff, sounds like you're even going to have a whole lot more going on. So I'll be interested in seeing how that comes along for you.
Yeah, well, we'll be. I really want to document it because it would hopefully help other people educate and have. Especially where we are too. I think it's with the summer winters and stuff here. There's different considerations that when you're looking at in different resources that might not translate depending on the area you live in. So I want to do that, and then my parents they'll be doing. They're looking at doing kind of a homesteading school, like giving people courses in like butchering, canning, smoking meat, gardening, things like that.
Bring back some of the forgotten skills, huh?
Yeah, like they kind of had an aha moment with that because, like I said, I didn't realize not everyone knew how to butcher a chicken. I thought it was common sense, and it's not. There's
some people who don't even know eggs come out of chickens. It's amazing.
I've had the conversation because we actually like you get the fun hens, you get the green eggs and the blue eggs and stuff, and people seem to be really concerned about the nutritional value of it. And I'm trying to explain to them that it's not. Right? Is it the same? Like, well, can I eat it? It's absolutely the same. And your nutritional value has nothing to do with that. It has to do with what I've given them.
Right.
So, and those are adults that eat organic. Like, they're not uneducated about the quality of food, but it was the same thing, too. I've had people come up and ask me what a turkey is because I've never seen one that's not on a plate. Right? They've never. What is that? Is it turkey?
It's amazing how separated as a society we are from our food nowadays, isn't it? It's just amazing.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, I've had a few fun conversations too, where people don't understand how I can raise these animals, and I'm so passionate about my animals. Like first thing I do when I come home is go sit and talk to my chickens, and I can pet half of them, and like the pigs are so friendly and stuff. And I think having that emotional connection to your food and putting that effort and that care into them and having that respect for them is more important than trying to go buy something out of a package. I think it's so disrespectful to say, well, I can't butcher an animal, but I would eat it out of a package.
Yeah.
I don't understand that point of view, but yeah.
I understand. Well, how can people get a hold of you if they want to get a hold of you? Learn more about what you're doing?
You know what? I'm on the Homestead front porch there, Tanya Morrison. I don't know if there's anyone else with my name on there. But probably the easiest place to find me. If they want to message me there on Facebook or anything like that,
Sure.
They're welcome to. If anyone's in the Alberta area wants to, I don't know too many homesteaders around me yet, so if anyone's around here wants to talk or anything like that, or
it's amazing where they're at. You never know. There's people around you don't even know they're there.
Exactly. We're all hiding out in our little farms, right?
That's right. They gotta keep quiet so no one comes and takes what they have. Most of them are preppers.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, it was really good talking to you, Tanya.
It was great talking to you.
We'll definitely be chatting
Thank
more
you.
in the Homestead front porch, and I'm excited about what all you're doing there.
Yeah, thank you so much for your podcast. I listen to podcasts all the time at work. I kind of got sick of the radio and the same 12 songs and the same news. So, I found you, and you're one of my favorite podcasts.
I haven't listened to the radio in months. That's all I do is listen to podcasts also.
Oh.
They're just a great resource.
Well, and I'm always going down, and then you go down that rabbit hole, because now I'm looking into, like, with homesteading and stuff, and I just love listening to what other people are doing, and finding out what's out there and listening to people's experiences, because someone else has made a mistake and maybe I don't have to.
That's why I love having other homesteaders on the podcast, because, it's not like,
exactly.
I just love to hear what they're doing and how it's working out for them and mistakes they're making and the successes they're having, and everybody just gets to learn from that. We all learn from each other. It's great way to do it. So
yeah, it is.
Well, thanks again
for
coming on.
Thank you so much for taking the time for all the effort you put in. It's really appreciated by many people.
Oh, thank you. Well, we'll be chatting with you in the Homestead front porch. Thanks for coming on.
Sounds good. You have a great day.
You too.
Bye.
Well, I know you enjoyed that interview as much as I did. I'll tell you what, Tanya gave us a lot of great information there. And I tell you, with everything she talked about, the thing that sticks out to me the most about that interview was not all the things she's doing, but her attitude behind the things she's doing. I mean, losing all those chickens to predators, and she wasn't really discouraged to the point of giving up. I mean, I'm sure she was discouraged, no doubt about it, but she's just going back to work, and she's going to make it happen, and she fixed the problem. She's doing things to correct it, and I just love that attitude. I think what a great homesteading outlook to have on this. I mean, you got to just say, I'm going to make this work, even if we have some failures, even if there's some mistakes, or even if there's things that may be going the way I want them to go, we're still going to work hard and we're going to make this go. And I think Tanya's going to be successful in anything she does because of that attitude. So I appreciate her coming on and sharing that with us and giving us some encouragement and some inspiration, and helping us all to maybe kind of try to acquire a little bit of that in our own lives, and always learn and move forward and continue to grow. So thanks, Tanya, for coming on the podcast today. Hey, I wanted to tell everybody, we've been doing our some little live discussions at smalltownhomestead.com/live. And if you want to be in that, about once a week, I'm going to try to put on a live video discussion where I'll be on video, and there's a chat room there. And you can come in and you can join the chat. And our last one was on raising meat rabbits, and you can still go there and see the replay on that. All these will have a replay, but I would encourage you to be part of the actual live event, because I kind of feed off the questions, and it helps me to answer the questions that need to be answered. So I'll encourage you to come. I'll have dates, and if you just pop in there, if I have another one coming up, I'll go ahead and post it in the chat when the next live event is. And you can come in there and watch. And it's a lot of fun. We've had a pretty good turnout on both events. We've done 2 so far in last week. And hopefully I'll be getting some more homesteaders and do some training discussions as well, where they'll just come in and teach us about something, and we'll all learn together. And it's been a great little thing to do. And I think I'm going to really like doing that. And I think it's going to become a big part of what we're doing at the website and stuff. So I would encourage you to go to smalltownhomestead.com/live. And you can see what we're doing there. So you can watch the video on raising meat rabbits. And also I had one on homesteading right where you are. And I would encourage you to be a part of that. I'd really enjoy you coming and be part of the live discussion. So I just wanted to tell you about that. And I also wanted to tell you, if you want to get in touch with Tanya, make sure you join the Homestead Front Porch Facebook group. All you have to do is search in Facebook for Homestead Front Porch. You'll find it. It'll pop up, and then request to join. It's a closed group, but all you have to do to join is ask, and we'll get you in there. And we have some great discussions in there. And if you're not part of that already, you should be part of that. Tanya's in there. You can look her up and ask her any questions you want to ask her or anything like that. So, come be a part of the Homestead Front Porch Facebook group, and let's continue to build our community and educate and help one another. Thanks for joining me today on the podcast, folks. And until next week, happy homesteading and God bless.
Thanks for listening. To see the show notes for this podcast or listen to other podcast episodes, go to smalltownhomestead.com. There you can also read our blog, connect with us on Facebook, Twitter, and Google+, and take advantage of the many resources we make available to help you along in your homesteading journey. Please share this podcast and help us to carry out our mission of helping others to homestead today for a better tomorrow.